Right. So question five is a short one, is about the infatuation with moralizing the logic of elimination through myths. I have to admit, Dr. Pappe, I had no idea about the attempts of Martin Buber to ask Gandhi to lend his support to Zionist movement. And the account you provide in your book is phenomenal. You're right. In 1838, Buber had, am I pronouncing it correctly? Buber had
Yeah.
been asked by Ben Gurion to put pressure on several well-known moral figures to show their public support for Zionism. They felt that approval from Gandhi as the leader of a nonviolent national struggle against imperialism would be especially useful, and they were prepared to leverage his respect for Buber in order to get it. And it's amazing. I highly recommend everyone to read this passage. It's from the myth of, I forgot the name of the myth that you discussed this in, but it's phenomenal. And the way Gandhi actually calls it out and Mandela calls it out, and the way they sort of realize, all right, no, this is getting to weird places. And Gandhi eventually disconnected or stopped communicating with Buber. Recently, I also saw some very interesting failed attempts on X or Twitter on how Israel was trying to promote the idea that it is a nation of decolonizers. To even think that it is possible to craft such a narrative, it surprises me. What do you think is the reason behind this obsession with moralizing colonial existence and justifying mass suffering? Is it to smear and to demoralize whoever is calling it out? Is it a preemptive policy, or is it just people needing to comfort themselves about how they feel about the unjust aspects of their identity? By the way, I'm here on a settler tradition as well, as I'm an immigrant in North America. So I'm also asking this for myself. And what is the dynamic here? Like, what were your reactions when you were following this correspondence of Gandhi and Buber? And some point, like, did you feel like me where you wrote, and then eventually Gandhi just like stopped communicating? I was like, yes, that's right. So, tell me about this infatuation with moralizing this logic.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, that shows actually the advantage of contextualizing Zionism within the discussion of settler colonialism in general,
Yeah.
because the settler communities needed the empires to begin their colonial projects. But at a certain point, as we have seen in North America and in South Africa and in Latin America, the settlers did not want the empire anymore. In fact, they developed their own national identity, although they came from the same countries that the empires belonged to. And they called their war against the empire the war of liberation or the war of independence. You have the War of Independence 1776 in America, and you have the War of Independence in Israel in 1948. And it's not surprising that the Israelis were thinking about 1776 when they called 1948 our War of Independence. The independence is from the British Empire.
Mm.
Because of the complex relationship every settler colonial project had with the empire that helps it to create the foothold. And then you don't want the empire anymore. So that's part of the explanation of this almost genuine idea that we are. After all, we fought against the British, and the Indians fought against the British. So isn't it isn't that the same? I mean, they were anti-colonialists and we were anti-colonialists. Now, but you were not indigenous Indians fighting against the British Empire. You were people who came with the British almost at the same time, and they wanted also to kick out the other aliens who invaded Palestine. So it's a
Yeah.
different story. I think it's something that would be very interesting to follow in the future. Is it still important for Israeli? Because Israel has transformed so dramatically, and we have this kind of neo-Zionism there that I'm less convinced that they are bothered by this. But definitely, as long as liberal Zionism was a dominant force in politics, culture, economy, and society, they really cared about their self-image and external image. And therefore, this was the kind of wish that they had, that they would not be seen as the victimizers, but as victims. Uh, Finally, we have to remember without the Holocaust, unfortunately, the chances of even a cynical global north after 1945 supporting so fully a clear project of colonization were quite slim. But you had to make sure that the Jewish community in Palestine is identified as the ultimate victim of the Holocaust, so that Europe would say something they always say at that period: we are creating a small injustice in order to rectify a bigger injustice. Within that frame, you can moralize on it. And again, it comes again, and I said it before, there's always admission for some wrongdoing, provided you understand that the wrongdoing is human and is the exception and not the rule.
I see.